Now, of course, it's ironic for the New York Times to say that because they also present themselves as independent of American State Department, but they're not. Obviously, we know that. Most likely was used by the United States of America to tame Turkey or to sometimes cause instability against Turkey when Erdogan or any Turkish government, as a matter of fact, would do things that was self-interested, that stepped out of line with American interests in the region. The reason why I think that this was an American gift to Turkey, so that Erdogan can present this as a major domestic W internally inside of Turkey, is because the person that actually came out and said he wanted to restart direct conversations with Abdullah Öcalan, the leader of the PKK that has been imprisoned in İmralı, right? I think İmralı, the island prison, on a life sentence. Okay. I am doing that. What? I'm doing that. What the hell? Was formed out of pro-government militias in 2013. The forces acted in an infantry role, directly fighting against rebels on the ground and running counterinsurgency operations in coordination with the army, who provided them with logistical and artillery support. Many of the fighters were trained in Iran, and they received their salaries and military equipment from the Syrian government. As of the 2024, the NDF numbered around 50,000 troops. We talked about Shabiha already. Shabiha. You got Hezbollah, also Iran-backed Shia militant group, part of the Axis of Resistance in the region. Hezbollah troops were fighting with the Syrian army against Islamic extremists and pledged that his group will not allow Syrian militants to control the areas that border Lebanon. In the televised address, he said, "If Syria falls in the hands of America, Israel, and Takfiris, the people of our region will go into a dark period." He also called on Shiites and Hezbollah to protect the shrine of Sayyida Zainab. President Bashar al-Assad had denied earlier that there were foreign fighters, Arab or otherwise, fighting for the government in Syria. Hezbollah's decision to aid the Syrian government is most likely due to the fact that they enjoy the protection of the government when it comes to the group's arms procurement and storage in Syria. Okay? Shebiha. Syria forms an important access corridor between Hezbollah and Lebanon, as I explained to you earlier. And their supporter Iran, and the survival of a regime that was friendly to Hezbollah was in the group's best interest. 2013 and 2012, Hezbollah was active in gaining control of the territory of Homs Governorate in Syria. By May 2013, the group was publicly collaborating with the Syrian army and helping them gain control of 60% of Al-Qusayr by May 14th. In Lebanon, an increase in the funerals of Hezbollah fighters was reported. According to independent analysts, the beginning of 2014, approximately 500 Hezbollah fighters had died in the Syrian conflict. In 2014, Nasrallah claimed that the Hezbollah fighters had helped Assad take back control over the country and that the Syrian regime was no longer in danger of being toppled. After 2014, Hezbollah's involvement in Syria continued to grow, with the group playing a significant role in major military offensives such as the Battle of Aleppo and the Syrian government's recapture of eastern Ghouta. The group also became increasingly involved in securing areas near the Syrian-Lebanese border. You have Iran, you have foreign Shia militias, you have IRGC troops from Iran, and you have Russia. And then on the opposition side, against the government of Bashar al-Assad, you have the Syrian National Coalition, Syrian National Council, the interim government, Free Syrian Army, and affiliate groups. The Free Syrian Army was a group of defecting Syrian army officers encouraging others to defect, defend civilian protesters from violence by the state, and effect government change. Coming from a Syrian, please, for the love of God, don't read Wikipedia. When it comes to Syria, almost everything has a heavy bias. The Shabiha weren't inherently all Alawites. This rhetoric was used to justify saying that the blame is all the Alawites for the suffering the Syrians went through. So, here, let's listen to Jeffrey Sachs explain this real quick. It's 15 minutes long. This was in the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, And I do think that, I mean, look, I like Jeffrey Sachs, regardless of his crimes against the USSR. But I will say this. The guy he's literally talking to on Untitled Diplomacy Forum in Turkey is literally a fucking CIA agent, okay? The guy who was interviewing him in this conversation is straight up a fucking CIA agent. So understand that while free discourse does take place from time to time, you know, there's still a decent amount of control. America's still involved, is what I mean.
Now I'm going to ask Jeff about
this guy. Is a former Al Jazeera executive who was literally outed as having direct contact with the fucking CIA. Okay? He had to resign in disgrace because he was outed as directly talking to Washington D.C. on how Al Jazeera's coverage should actually suit the purpose of the American State Department. Okay? Yes, as Gamal Abdel Nasser says, he worked for 10 years there. Think about that. I forget what his name is, but it's insane. Like, he was a fucking high-ranking executive at Al Jazeera, and WikiLeaks, I think it was WikiLeaks, if I'm not mistaken, showed that he was in direct contact with DC about what kind of coverage and how the Al Jazeera coverage should revolve around what do you call it? Here, I'll just show you. Al Jazeera. He's now the president of Al Sharq Forum, and he was the former director general of the Al Jazeera Media Network. Here's the New York Times reporting on it. After disclosures by WikiLeaks, Al Jazeera replaces his top news director. From 2011. Cairo, Al Jazeera, the pan-Arab news network financed by Qatar, named a new member of the Qatari royal family on Tuesday to replace his top news director after disclosures from group WikiLeaks indicating that the news director had modified the network's coverage of the Iraq war in response to pressure from the United States. Al Jazeera is under intense scrutiny in the Middle East over its varying coverage of the Arab Spring revolts. Although the network is nominally independent and its degree of autonomy was itself a revolution in the context of the region's state-controlled news media when it began in 1996, many people contend that its coverage of the region still reflects the views of its Qatari owners. Of course it does, especially as it pertains to the domestic coverage of things happening in Qatar. Anyway. Until Turkey leaves NATO, everything they say that sounds anti-West is just empty words, and it is not yet a popular thing to leave NATO and Turkey, so most things will remain just as words for a while. I don't think Turkey will ever leave NATO. I don't think there is any prominent... I do not think there is a single prominent Turkish official that has any motion whatsoever that will ever advocate to leave NATO. That's crazy. Why the fuck would they do that? Erdogan loves the power that he has. Even the PKK, even the disbanding of the PKK, I clicked on the link and it was stupid of me. Anyway, even the disbanding of the PKK is a gift by the United States of America to Recep Tayyip Erdogan for literally playing a formative role in what took place in Syria. Recep Tayyip Erdogan directly shanked Russian interest in Syria. That's not true. It 100% is true. Why do you think Western leaders are not talking about the primary opposition leader, the most popular opposition leader in Turkey, being imprisoned for ridiculous reasons and is still in fucking prison with hundreds of thousands of Turkish students and Turkish people flooding the fucking streets, and there is not a single peep from Western leadership? They love talking about how shitty Turkey is and how authoritarian Turkey is from time to time. Why are they not talking about it right now? Elon Musk banned him from Twitter. I'll tell you why. As I said back then, okay? I'll tell you exactly why. As I said back then, it is because Recep Tayyip Erdogan played a very, very important role in toppling the Assad regime for America and Israel's purposes. And now they are going to piece Syria piece by piece, with the Northern Corridor becoming a de facto part of Turkey, or not like literally a part of Turkey, but under Turkish control. And the southern and the southwestern side of Syria being under Israeli occupation. There is also some conflict between Israel and Turkey over their interests, albeit they're both technically on the same side, the United States of America. There's some conflict between Israel and Turkey. There's a lot of back and forth that's going on, as I've covered as well. But the disbanding of the PKK was a gift to the Erdogan regime. Okay? That's it. And if you understand anything about Turkish politics and NATO involvement in Turkish politics during the Cold War, and how it has been a formative part of the Erdogan coalition, the government coalition that he built, MHP, the ultra-nationalist party, is literally an invention of the CIA. It was designed to directly engage in paramilitary action in Turkey against socialist adjacent, Soviet aligned Kurdish groups and socialist groups and workers groups. They literally killed all of the Kurdish political dissidents. The MHP did. The MHP-backed Ülke Ocakları, the Grey Wolves, the ultranationalist movement in Turkey that was directly built, designed, controlled, and beefed up by the CIA, played a role in completely destroying all of the Kurdish revolutionary movements. Now, I don't want people to say that I am engaging in Turkish chauvinism here when I choose my words very carefully. I am in support of Kurdish liberation. I am in support of Kurdish people, 35 million, that don't have a homeland in the region. They are the largest ethnic group on the planet that does not have a nation state of their own. Having said that, however, it would be irresponsible for me not to mention that a lot of the Kurdish militias, including ones who my friends have actually went and fought alongside in their international call to arms in Rojava. Brace Belden, shouts out to Piss Big Granddad. Okay. Have been heavily involved with the United States of America. My suspicion is that the PKK also, the fuck? People are circulating this as evidence to say you aren't minimizing it. Yeah, I didn't want people to fucking freak out. Like, what are we doing? Anyway,